Stay tuned and you'll get my top tips on making your homestead successful in 2020 right here. Hey folks, welcome to Set Up Our Homestead. This is Travis here at the Prepared Homestead. And so today I'm going to give you some tips that I've come up with to make your homestead more successful this year in 2020. So we're at the end of January now. So, even though winter's still going and, maybe not a lot of activity, you should be planning and getting ready and doing some things to kind of get ready for 2020 on your homestead to make it more successful, to whether it's to make more money, to increase your harvest, or to just make it more enjoyable. And I have been homesteading of some sort, farming, taking care of animals, gardening, living off grid at times for many years. So this is kind of just my own personal take on it. And I decided I would use the big marker board that we use here at the house to keep ourselves organized, teach kids, that kind of stuff. We'll try it out. So let's get into it. But before we get into it, if you want to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and share it, I'd sure appreciate it. There's links below in the description where you can see other videos and other things that we are doing here at the channel. So, first things first, let's get on to this. What is something that is very important when you're homesteading or living off grid or urban homesteading? It's food production, garden production. So here is a big tip to help your garden and food production on your homestead. Get more poo. That's right. Manure is one of the best things or the best thing to fertilize your garden. And a lot of gardeners don't do that. They may be buying their dirt from bags at the, big stores or whatever. And they're struggling to get their gardens going. Every year, they just don't seem to be producing as well as they want them to. This will help a lot. And it's not as hard as you think. If you don't have farm animals to where you can be collecting your own manure, it's not that hard to find farmers that will sell you and many times even give you, some good composted manure. Now, most all manure, it needs to be composted. If it's pretty fresh, which is what's called green, it will be too hot and it will kill your plants. So you want something that's been composted for a year to 2 years before you use it. And it's not that hard to find. You can get this stuff by the truckload pretty cheap. A lot of these farmers, especially more out in the rural communities, out where I'm from, a lot of times they'll beg you to come take it because they get this buildup of it. Guys that, run lots of cattle or lots of goats, lots of sheep, and they get overrun with the amount of manure on their property. So you can get that kind of stuff. You can, if you have a truck or trailer that you can haul it and, have your own big pile that you're composting and adding to, and you would be surprised how it changes the production of your garden and the end result. You will have much bigger, better fruit and vegetables, and the amount of harvest will increase a lot. So get more poo on your farm. Next, this is a tough one for me. And it's probably a tough one for some of you, but I suspect there's some of you out there that are really good at this. Get more organized. Penmanship is not one of my stronger qualities. Get more organized. I'm really good at setting down and coming up with some kind of organizational plan. I'm good at implementing that, and I'm good at sticking with it for a while. And then I kind of fall off the wagon and I get unorganized. But when you're running a homestead, especially if you're homeschooling, raising animals, gardening, canning, all the different things, cutting wood, everything that goes on, regardless of what level you are at on your little homestead, there's a lot of work to it. That's part of the fun is the work. The more organized you are, the better it's going to be, the better productive you'll be able to be on your homestead, and it's going to reduce the stress. This is pretty common sense, right? But it's very difficult sometimes for us to implement that. And it's a really good idea to sit down with your spouse, with your kids, and try to come up with ways that you can become more organized. Because if you can do that, I assure you, it will make the entire experience more pleasant, and in the end, you will be more productive on your little homestead. So work on that. Some of you, like I said, it comes natural, and you're very OCD about being organized. And then there's other ones I know that just kind of squirrely all over the place. And not that there's anything wrong with that, but if you develop some level of organization, you can definitely help your homestead. The next thing I want to tell you is, this is for the year. Learn 2 new skills. And this is really a bare minimum, but make a goal this year to learn 2 new skills. And that can be any kind of skill. Maybe it's canning, preserving, meat, carpentry, electrical, milking an animal, whatever it is, making cheese, butter, anything it is. Learn 2 new skills this year at a minimum. And not just learn them by reading it in a book, but really practice those skills and become to where you can have a really good working knowledge and you develop the skill. And you would be surprised how that helps you. And if you do that every year and make goals to continually learn new skills, you can eventually start saving money and maybe even putting those skills to where you can bring income into the home. But I think that's a real big thing that you should try to do. Next on the list is make friends and barter. Now, I'm not saying that you should just make a friend so that it can benefit you financially, but building friendships with the people around you in your community, especially if you live in a rural farming community, will come in handy when it comes to bartering things. I built a pretty large chicken coop once, completely free, of the materials were free. And how I did it is knew someone, got to know them, and they had some stuff, just some junk and things that they were needing hauled off. And we worked out a deal that I would go load it up and haul it off to, the dump and recycling area. And he had a pile of old lumber and metal and things like that, and he gave that to me. And it was enough, with a little extra, to build a very large, nice chicken coop. And so, that's an example how we kind of, because of our friendship, we exchanged, things, and didn't cost him any money. He got rid of the stuff that he wanted. He didn't have to work. He didn't have to pay anyone to do it. And in exchange, I got the materials to build a really good-sized chicken coop. So these are some of the things. Let's get this off here, and we'll keep going. The next thing that you need to do, and this one could be controversial, is do what works, not what you like. All right, now I know you're going to say, but hey, isn't the part of homesteading to have fun, make it enjoyable? And yes, and so that's okay to do that, but let me explain. A lot of times, especially if you're new at it, homesteading can be, viewed at as this, very mystical, beautiful, walking on, frolicking through the woods and through the fields, and it's all beautiful, nice, and through rose-colored glasses. And then when the reality hits in, that there's also a lot of work to it, and there's a lot of times that it doesn't work because you're doing it the wrong way. Sometimes we do things to our homesteads or little farms and stuff because we want it to look good, or we really want it to work this way, but the reality is it's just not going to work. And don't keep trying to make it work, make it fit, if it's not going to work. Sometimes you got to scrap that plan and go with something that works, but that may not be exactly what you want. An example is a few years ago, I built a little garden space next to the house, kind of outside of where the kitchen area was. And it was meant to be a kitchen garden, some tomatoes and peppers and things like that, that you could just walk out there and harvest some fresh vegetables when you're cooking. And I put a lot of work into it, the actual building of the garden space, more so than just your normal run-of-the-mill garden, because I wanted it to look pretty and landscaped and all that. And I thought that I had figured that it would have enough sunlight, even with some shade on that side of the house, for it to work right. In the end, I couldn't really get a lot of vegetables to grow because there just wasn't enough sunlight. I was wrong. And I tried, but things would grow, but it wasn't really producing enough to really, waste time with it. And so in the end, I had to scrap the idea of growing vegetables there. I grew some things that were shade tolerant, and sure, it looked nice, but the whole point of building that garden was to have a kitchen garden, and I ended up not having it because I had to change the plans. So sometimes what you want to do and how you want it to look and how you want it to work just isn't feasible, and it's not going to work. So be able and flexible to scrap your little dreams that might sound cool for things that actually work, that are real, the reality. And this next one and the last one is going to probably step on some toes. But let me explain. No animals. But not at first, or not forever. One of the biggest mistakes, I've done this and I've seen others do it. If you're new to it or you're just getting started, you get out there and you get your little piece of land, one of the first things you want to do is get animals. You want goats, chickens, ducks, sheep, cow, whatever it is. Because number one, an animal can be the most productive part of your homestead. And it also adds, a little bit of pride to it, makes it feel more real. There's the companionship, the joy of seeing them and interacting with these animals. And that is all true. Every animal I've ever owned for my homestead, I've developed and tried to build a real relationship and not just viewed them as meat or eggs or whatever. But if you and your homestead is not ready for animals, it will be a horrible failure, or at least miserable while you're trying to make it successful. And a lot of times that's just one of the first things we want to do. And we don't have the proper fencing or pens or shelter or whatever it is, or just the skills and knowledge it takes to take care of a farm animal. It's not like raising a cat or a dog. There's a lot more hands-on. You have to, be able to protect them from the elements of nature, protect them from predators, take care of their illnesses. A lot of times these animals, especially if they're larger, they can be stubborn, and there's more to work with them. It's not just like raising a cat or a hamster. And until you're ready financially, you're ready logistically and with the proper tools and the proper confinements for the animal, and especially the knowledge to take care of the animal, put that further down on your list. And it's going to be difficult because as you get going in this, you're going to run into people that's like, hey, I got a couple of goats I'll give you, or I'll sell you to them for, to you for $20 a piece, or, that happens all the time. I've had people give me calves and other animals. They just, they get too many and they want to get rid of them. And of course you want to just take them in because, I've always wanted a goat, or I've always wanted a cow and stuff. But if you're not ready for it, it's going to be tough, and not just tough on you, but it's going to be tough on that animal. It's different than if you plant a garden and the garden fails and it doesn't work, as opposed to an animal that definitely has the feelings that you watch them maybe get sick or sometimes even die. There's definitely emotional toll on that. And so while you definitely want to, and desire that, experience of raising farm animals, don't do it until you're ready. It's really tough for people to kind of hold back on that, especially when they're getting started. But, years later, when you've raised animals and stuff, you'll realize what I'm saying is true, that that's probably should not be your top priority when you get out there on your homestead to take on some animals. Just, try to have patience, and it'll happen. It will happen, but make sure that you're ready for it when it happens. All right, so these are my 6, I think. tips on making your homestead more successful in 2020. Thank you for watching. Comment below with your tips, because I know that there's many of you that are homesteading also at various places and various levels, maybe, you know, secluded in the woods or, you know, backyard gardens in the city. And let me know what your thoughts are, so that others can learn from your experiences also on how to make their places more successful. Thank you all for watching, and I will catch you in the next video.